On this episode of Weather Watch, we take a look at Pennsylvania's newest solar farm and learn what goes into making electricity out of sunlight. Then, we continue our countdown to the #1 Northeast Snowstorm and our latest installment of the Weather Watch Top 5. And finally, we'll investigate the facts and hear from the experts about one of the most controversial weather topics to this day, climate change. All of this and more coming up on Weather Watch. Hello and welcome to another edition of Weather Watch, Millersville University's exclusive weather news program. I'm your host, Rachel Coulter. To get us started off, let's get you caught up on the weather that has made headlines around the globe over the past few weeks. Here's your weather in 60 seconds. Twisters in France, heavy rains and flooding in Scotland, and recent snowstorms in Midwestern United States appear in this edition of Weather in 60 Seconds. Starting in southeastern France, shoppers were thrown off guard when a tornado ripped through a shopping center in Marseille. Though the center was packed that day, no deaths occurred, and only 25 shoppers were injured. However, the area did suffer damages when roofs tore off buildings and billboards were thrown to the ground. Continuing on, Scotland took a hit recently as heavy rains caused major flooding, stranding many in their homes. Rescue efforts were made for those in their homes as well as those trapped in vehicles during the downpour. 3 inches of rain fell that Friday, which is about what the area would expect to see for the entire month. To wrap up, we'll head to the United States, where the season changed with a bang in the upper Midwest. Residents in North Dakota and Minnesota were caught off guard when a snowstorm hit in early October. The region experienced winds gusting above 40 miles an hour during the height of the storm. Records for the date were broken after 2.3 inches of snow fell on Billings, Montana. This came as a surprise after such a mild winter season the previous year. And that is all we have for you this edition of Weather in 60 Seconds. Recently, southern Lancaster County became home to Pennsylvania's largest solar farm. Here at Weather Watch, we were curious to find out what a solar farm is and how it can generate clean energy to the residents of Central PA. Weather Watch's own Mike Yalch has all of the details.
We often take electricity for granted. When you flip on a light switch, you expect the light to come on, much like you expect hot coffee from a coffee pot or clean clothes from the dryer. But did you ever stop and think about where your electricity comes from or how it's made? Electricity can have a higher environmental price tag, and that's why communities nationwide are jumping at the chance to implement clean, renewable energy resources. One such energy resource is solar energy, and it just so happens located right here in south central Pennsylvania is home to the state's newest and largest solar energy project, the Keystone Solar Farm. This is the Keystone Solar Farm, located in southern Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. The Keystone Solar Farm is the state's largest source of clean, fuel-free energy. Weather Watch was granted access at the site of the solar farm to speak with Dr. Tom Tuffy, Vice President of Community Energy Solar, to learn more about this exciting new project.
Community Energy is an entrepreneurial company focused on renewable energy development. We've built about 700 megawatts of wind energy. We're now building solar energy. We also market renewable energy to about 130,000 customers that want to buy clean energy.
With most of our energy resources coming from beneath the surface of the earth, one does not have to travel too far to locate the materials necessary to power our everyday lives. However, with solar energy, one must tap a resource which is 93 million miles away. With advances in technology, the science of solar energy is growing into one of the more popular fields in the renewable energy market. Dr. Tuffy explains this process as well as some advantages and disadvantages with solar energy.
In conventional power generation, remember the third grade, you have a copper wire and a magnet that runs around it, and it induces the flow of electricity down that wire. That's the same for nuclear, coal, natural gas, hydro, wind. until we come to solar photovoltaic, in which case the sun hits this, excites an electron, which is captured in a wire matrix and leads the electron off. That electron is direct current, remember DC. Yet at home, our appliances work on AC, so we have to convert the DC electron to AC through a device called an inverter. Next to the inverter is a transformer, which steps up the voltage so that we can put it on the power line, and then once it goes on the power line, it goes into a substation, quarter of a mile down the road, and from there goes on to the grid. Fundamentally, there is no fuel that's needed to produce this energy. Because there's no fuel, that means there's no emission. We're not contributing any additional carbon to the atmosphere, and we're offsetting other sources of electricity that do produce carbon.
In 2012, construction began on the largest solar farm in Pennsylvania. Dr. Tuffy tells us about why Lancaster was chosen as a host for this new project, along with what the community can expect from this project once the site goes live.
This community has been very supportive of the farm. It was a new and different idea to them when we first came in. This is the prime farm country. It's probably as good as any in the world. This is knee-deep in Amish country. It's southern Lancaster County. And then the community understood the role that solar plays in the clean energy future and basically said, we'd like to support that role. How do we do that in a fashion that balances our traditional values and esteem for the land with also supporting this? And through a 8 or 9 month period of discussion with the community and design of the project, this is what results. We have not heard I'm amazed there hasn't been a complaint of any kind. I can't go to the grocery store without somebody complaining about something. And we've had lots of kudos. So we're very, very, very proud of this project.
In all, the Keystone Solar Farm is expected to produce 8,000 megawatt hours of electricity. That's enough to power close to 1,000 local homes and businesses. With a number of environmentally friendly and cost-saving measures in place, the Keystone Solar Farm is becoming an attractive example of how efficient solar energy can be produced. Reporting for Weather Watch, I'm Mike Yalch.
As the winter season approaches, anticipations for future snowstorms are increasing. Here to remind us of past memorable snowstorms is our own Pete Molinax. Join us as we continue in our countdown to the #1 Northeast Snowstorm in this segment of Weather Watch Top 5.
Welcome back to our countdown of the top 5 Northeast snowstorms. Last episode, we covered number 4 in our countdown, which was the blizzard of March 1960. In this episode, we finally reached number 3. In February of 2003, a major nor'easter dropped over 20 inches of snow along the I-95 corridor. The numbers were so large and so widespread, it earned our respect as a top 5 snowstorm. At number 3 in our countdown is the President's Day storm of 2003. The President's Day storm of 2003 was the first crippling northeast snowstorm of the 21st century. Strong winds and a wide range of 20 or more inches of snow fell across a major population center, making this system the biggest snowstorm since 1996.
Meteorologically, the 2003 storm was a textbook classic. What I'm talking about is a huge area of high pressure. I think it was about a 1044 millibar high, came down across Ontario, Quebec, and built across New England, and that funneled tremendously cold and dry air down the east side of the Appalachians. So I think the night ahead of the storm here at Millersville, the low temperature was 8 degrees. So there was no doubt it was a snowstorm. There was not going to be a changeover to rain with that storm. And I think at the peak of the storm, it only got up to about 23 degrees. So it was a relatively dry snow. It piled up about 2 feet deep. And of course, there was some blowing and drifting following the storm. Really just a classic.
A band of 20 or more inches stretched as far west as the Ohio River eastward to Boston, Massachusetts. 30 or more inches fell in the Blue Ridge and Appalachian Mountains, with the big winner being Kaiser's Ridge, West Virginia, receiving 44 inches of snow. Combined with periods of sleet and freezing rain in some spots, power outages and treacherous roads led to many accidents and shut down the I-95 corridor.
Heading into the winter of 2003, we're coming out of a snow drought. You know, the late 90s, we couldn't buy a snowstorm. There was a couple okay systems the winter or two prior to that, but there hadn't been a big storm since 1996. So I think when the President's Day storm hit, it was kind of a blessing for snow lovers that were waiting for the next big one to hit.
Baltimore, Washington, D.C., and Boston were especially hit hard, with these cities and many of the suburbs seeing over 25 inches. These impressive snow totals were centered around a massive population center, which is why the President's Day storm of 2003 is number 3 on our countdown. Reporting for Weather Watch, I'm student meteorologist Peter Molinax.
Thanks, Pete. Climate change has been at the forefront of many debates over the past few years. Scientists and politicians struggle to come to an agreement as to whether or not climate change should be included in legislation. Weather Watch has interviewed the experts to bring you the facts about this heated issue in our Weather 101 segment.
How do you view climate change? Most think of one of two things: either the catastrophic downfall, as depicted by Hollywood in The Day After Tomorrow, or the fact-filled flick made famous by Al Gore in An Inconvenient Truth. At the end of it all, climate change is still a mystifying topic due to many discords and opinions between politicians and scientists alike. Weather Watch was able to go behind the scenes to gain exclusive access to interviews to bring you the facts about global climate change. Global warming, greenhouse gases, carbon footprint. These are all terms that the public has become more familiar with over the past decade. In fact, it wasn't until the early 1990s that the science community as a whole became concerned about what was becoming an increasingly volatile climate. The question still remains, however, as to why our climate is changing, or more importantly, what or who is causing it.
So climate change refers to the large-scale question of seeing changes in each of the components of the climate system. So changes in the atmosphere, changes in the ocean and other water components on the surface of the Earth, changes in the ice component of the Earth system. All of those indicate changes in the entire system. In terms of whether or not this change is natural or what we call anthropogenic or human cause, it's a combination of the both.
What we can definitely say, and what the science community is definitely saying, is that we know that carbon dioxide is accumulating in the atmosphere. We know that as carbon dioxide accumulates in the atmosphere, temperatures rise. And we know that if we raise temperatures, the world potentially could see very dangerous and significant impacts.
Evidence indicates that the change that we have been witnessing, especially for the last 30 to 35 years, is at a pace that is not congruent with what we normally see in the natural cycles. But yet, we need to make sure that we can understand the natural variability really well before we can indicate whether or not all of what we're seeing is a result of human activity.
Climate change is not without its share of controversy, much of which stems from lawmakers on Capitol Hill. There, climate change often boils down to a price tag bottom line, instead of a real scientific debate. The end result is a disconnect between science and politics, which many believe hurts the debate rather than progresses it.
For the last 20 years, we viewed climate change as a pollution problem. It's something we can just put a piece of technology on a smokestack, or how we dealt with the Clean Air and Clean Water Act. When in reality, it's a big economic problem, and it's any policy we implement is going to directly impact voters' wallets and their energy bills and their gas bills and things like that. So we need to be really careful about that and tailor solutions that lessen that economic impact, because that's how we're going to find the solution that we can implement on an aggressive and large scale.
And you have to also remember that policy making is a very complicated process, and there are lots of levels of information and people that are involved. So, but I think that's something that really we need to work on, and it's integral in making this something that the country can really think about seriously.
Climate scientists fear we may be reaching a tipping point, where our actions or inactions lead to a series of events that may alter climate permanently. For this reason, many within the climate community stress the importance of taking initiative sooner rather than later.
So we do see those impacts, we have been seeing them, and the projections are to a large extent fulfilled. So if you look at the projections from 10 years ago for what we would be expecting for the next 40 to 50 years, a lot of those have been pretty close.
If I told you that your apartment has a 50% chance of burning down, you wouldn't reply, well, let me know when it's a 100% chance of burning down. You would figure out a way of kind of leveraging that. You would, for example, purchase insurance to guard yourself against your apartment burning down. And so that's kind of where we're at with climate change. We need to purchase insurance.
One of the things that we have to do is that we have to think about alternative solutions. So if we focus on part of the climate change as a contribution of anthropogenic or human cause, the one place that we can have some control is over our practices and the way that we do our business, right? So what we used to call business as usual. So that takes into account, obviously, a lot of research and development. And so we really need to focus on research and development, on finding new and innovative ways that can help us do what we normally do, but in a way that doesn't affect the environment the way that it has been.
Climate change is a growing concern, not just in the scientific field. It has the potential to affect everyone, even you and me. Many questions remain unanswered in the battle to understand our changing climate. Many believe that the sooner we take action, the better chance we'll have to slow or reverse the harmful impacts against our planet. The best measures for prevention are public awareness and initiative. Reporting for Weather Watch, I'm student meteorologist Lauren Ben.
Thanks, Lauren. We see clouds all the time, whether they bring rain or just keep us from enjoying a sunny day. But have you ever wondered how those clouds were formed? We got the inside scoop from the one and only Mr. Weather, and for the first time ever, Weather Watch has the pleasure of bringing you the Weather Workshop. Let's take a look.
Hello and welcome to the Weather Workshop. I'm Mr. Weather.
And I'm Haley Storm. Mr. Weather, I was just thinking, how do clouds form?
Brilliant question, Haley. As we all know, weather can be quite intriguing, and clouds are a key component in the weather. Clouds, they form when water starts to evaporate, and that water vapor moves up in the atmosphere to a lower pressure, where it cools and condenses, and that's what forms a cloud.
Mr. Weather, do you think we could make a cloud?
Haley, you're always one step ahead of me. We can do the cloud in the bottle experiment. Here's what we need for this experiment. First, we have a 2-liter clear plastic soda bottle. Second, a bike or hand pump. Third, a bottle of rubbing alcohol. And lastly, some sticky tack. Haley, let's first pour just a little bit of rubbing alcohol into the bottle. We're using alcohol instead of water because alcohol evaporates a lot quicker than water, even though the process of a cloud forming is the same with water or alcohol.
What's the next step?
Next, we take the sticky tack and seal the opening of the bottle so the air doesn't flow out.
So now what, Mr. Weather?
We start pumping the air inside, increasing the pressure and heating the molecules inside. So by the time we release it, bam, bam, it cools and expands and we get a cloud.
Wow, Mr. Weather, that's so cool. So basically, making a cloud is all about temperature and pressure?
Absolutely. So the cooling is the drop in pressure and the heating is the increase in pressure. So temperature and pressure change coincide. Under normal conditions, water molecules, in this case alcohol, move freely around, bouncing into each other or rarely sticking at all. So when we increase the pressure inside the bottle, the molecules are forced to squeeze together. This is called compression.
So, when we release pressure, it allows rapid expansion of the air, letting it cool quickly, where the molecules then stick together, which would be coalescence?
Correct. So when the pressure drops and the air cools, the molecules stick together, and those suspended alcohol droplets form the
Clouds! Does that mean all the clouds we see in the sky are basically a whole bunch of molecules stuck together?
Sure thing. So clouds are just a whole bunch of molecules clustered together, just one big happy family. Now that we've tamed and explained a topic of weather that many ponder about, I hope you join us next time on the Weather Workshop.
That is all we have for you for this episode of Weather Watch. Please be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at the addresses shown below. You can also check out our website, muweatherwatch.com, to see our entire collection of episodes. On behalf of our entire cast and crew, I'm Rachel Coulter. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.